Well, I am super excited. Today, we have our very first guest, Geoff McLachlan, Professionals at Play. Uh, Very much this is the first episode, so quick high-level overview of what we're planning on doing today is basically just I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, so I'm going to go why, how, what is it that you do? We'll follow it up with a couple questions. So, Geoff, we'll start off by why do you do what you do?
Well, you know what? I'm glad you gave me a preface and time to think about that because it's almost like people are like, what's your elevator pitch for why do you do what you do?
Yeah,
Well, for me, it's real simple. I love to see the change in people as they connect and realize that they are a part of something bigger and they can see themselves in other people's stories.
that's awesome.
So I love seeing that connection piece because that's the most vital part is all human beings want to be connected. I just love being able to help facilitate that process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being a part of that is how do you go about connecting those people from that perspective?
Well, a big part is I'm just asking questions. Most of the time, I'm asking questions, or I give them something to talk about. And the people themselves are the ones that start to share their story. And the truth is that we only have so much energy in our brain, which is why we, go with the, hey, how's it going? Good. Okay, cool. Great. Thanks. And that doesn't really create a connection.
Yeah.
But if we actually want to create connection, we have to expend just a tiny bit of energy. But if we can do it intentionally, we as the listener and the question asker actually get value out of other people's stories because we start to see ourselves in those stories. And so all I do is really facilitate a process where people are allowed to have those connections and those conversations that a lot of the times they wouldn't normally have because just the everyday thing that's called life. you
Yeah.
know it's just it's a hard thing to get through, and it's better when we get through it together. So
Yeah. My brain goes to what you said there was, so many times our brain goes to what's the default mode and right, you walk into a grocery store and somebody says, "How can I help you?" I'm fine, right? Even though
yep.
especially for us guys, you probably walk in there and you have the list from the significant other who's like, "Okay, I need these things." And you're like, "I have no idea where this white wine vinegar is at. Like, how am I supposed to find this?" But right, somebody comes into you, your default's always this. So
Yep.
it sounds like
Yep.
you're facilitating between asking better questions and telling a better story that gives people
Mhm.
the opportunity to engage differently.
Yeah, well, that's what you just said it. I mean, you get the opportunity to engage differently than
Yeah.
what we're used to, and you find value in your story and somebody else's story. And it's really cool. It's kind of fascinating because if you do it, you start to go, wow, you see so much of yourself in other people's story.
Yeah.
And that shows that we are so much more highly connected than we even think. I've done this with complete strangers, and you do a little bit of play, you have a little bit of fun, you have some questions, and then you can have incredibly deep conversations in a matter of minutes that you would not have normally had with another human being if you didn't have that opportunity. And so
So
it's
one of
just
the things I
crazy.
think I relate to in that sense is right, if somebody's wearing a sports team shirt, right? I'm very much into sports, so I'm
Mhm.
pretty up to date on a lot of things. And so if somebody's wearing a Seahawks shirt, right? I
Mhm.
can ask them, well, what do you think they're going to do in free agency or the draft or things like that coming up? So I can instantly like relate to them in that aspect and build that trust. But right, not everybody walks around with let's say musical t-shirt or all these other things that help us connect. So, are there ways that you kind of have to help bridge that gap when you don't have an immediate identifier on how we can connect in that way?
Yeah, well, that's a great point because we don't wear a sign on our shirt that says, "Here's all the things that I like. How about you?" That would be so nice. It'd be so easy if humans were that simple, but we're not. We are creatures of habit and we are tribal by nature. And so we will look for those things that we think will connect us to somebody else. So if somebody's wearing a sports team that you like, it's automatic.
Yeah.
I will see people with WSU gear on in airports all over the country, and I'm like, go Cougs, high five. And then we walk away and never talking again. Right. But there's that connection point over sports teams. And I didn't play sports at WSU. I didn't even go to WSU. I just got a lot of family that does, and I like the logo, and I do
Yeah.
some work there. So, but the hard part is we will look at somebody and we will automatically see the differences. That is human nature. Like we notice the differences before we find anything similar. And so we have to be able to have a strategy to be able to get to those commonalities.
Yeah.
And a lot of times like the the Seahawks shirt, that's an entry. That's an entry point. It's an easy, low-hanging fruit entry point where we can go, oh, wait a minute, you're a Hawks fan? Great. What do you think of the season this year? Or, you can have a great conversation, you get into it, and then you start to find out the other things that really start to build connection.
Yeah.
And truly, sports is a great thing because sports really, really bonds a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And so that's an easy opener. It's like, hey, who's your favorite sports team?
Yeah.
I love sports ball. Sports ball is my favorite, right? And so those things that connect us, just those little simple things.
Yeah.
Better than how's the weather?
Yeah.
I love to ask, hey, what's the best thing that happened yesterday?
Yeah.
Something like that, where you as a listener or the person who's asking the question, you're asking for something positive that happened in somebody's life. And people will actually think about that and go, huh, what was the best thing that happened yesterday? And now you're in like a 3 to 5 minute conversation with somebody about the best thing that happened. You get to learn so much about them,
Oh yeah.
but then you get to relive the moment with them. And you actually get
Absolutely.
some nice chemical you get serotonin, oxytocin, maybe a little bit of dopamine from listening to somebody else's story.
Yeah.
And you get to say, wait, well, oh, I've done that too. Sweet. Oh, that's right. That was a great part of my day. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
So you walk away feeling better from that conversation, and so do they.
And the
And it's
importance
just,
of asking an open-ended question, so they have to think about it, right? Rather than a yes,
mhm.
no, which is a pretty easy default answer one way or the other.
Exactly. Those default modes are really hard to get out of in our head, though.
Yeah.
It's just kind of where we go for like, okay, this is a safety thing. I'm going to pull back into that default mode network so that I can keep myself safe psychologically, because really what we all want is to be connected. But if we put ourselves out there, there's the possibility that we get rejected.
Yeah.
And so that's a really hard thing. So if we can have play, if we can do a little bit of play and have fun first, we are more open to that possibility because, hey, guess what? We're just playing around here. It's okay. It's totally okay to screw up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Now you have freedom to move forward and to fail. And that helps us create even greater connections.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
we've come the why, the
Mhm.
how, now's the what. So what is it exactly that you do, Geoff?
Well, I am a professional at play. So that's my organization, my company, and we use play to facilitate conversations, engagement, and connection in the workplace. And we have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is, if we play together, we stay together,
Yeah.
and that's really all it is. It's like, how do you connect with your peers? Because everybody wants to play, especially as adults. As we get older, we think, oh, we don't have time to play, when the reverse is true. We actually need to make time to play because that's how we connect as human beings. And so if you think about your best friends in the whole wide world, you played with those people. You play with them on a regular basis, whether that's fantasy football, um, karaoke. You probably even some people actually do legit go out and play sports with those people.
Mhm.
We struggle together. We bond over activities together, and most of it is usually laughter inducing, which is a form of play.
Yeah. I think of
Pretty simple.
just golf with my buddies, right? It's like we're there in
Absolutely.
misery when I shank that shot into the bushes. But when you have that one shot in that round of golf that keeps coming you back, man, the buddies that you're playing with are your biggest fans and just like yelling, screaming, jumping up a joy for you. And very
Absolutely.
much in that play mode where we go.
Yep.
So if we're thinking, hey, you're talking to somebody in HR or an executive
Mhm.
leadership position, how do you kind of come in and specifically help their organization learning how to understand and play in the workspace or have those important, crucial conversations? How do you go about facilitating that for a company like that?
Well, it's very interesting. I just before this, I got off a call with a local organization, and they said, I think we need some team building. And so my job is to ask, what does that mean?
Yeah,
What does that look like? What do you want from this? Because that's a really important thing. And HR professionals, they have a bunch of rules and regulations that they have to abide by. And they know that like there's certain things, oh, we can't do this because that's going to violate the rules. They have to abide by the rules. So how do we provide an opportunity for your employees to laugh, engage, have fun with each other in a safe manner that provides the connection that helps with focus, productivity, better mental health and wellness, that actually increases profitability for an organization because your people feel connected to the actual business and the people in the business.
Yeah.
If we can establish what does that look like for your team, then we can actually start to build. Here's what a team build would look like. Here's what a program would look like, meaning we're going to do multiple trainings over the course of 1, 3, 5 months, 6 months, or even longer. Sometimes, I mean, I've worked with organizations for a year and done like a couple of little team build things like quarterly and or biannually, but then do some coaching with the group and say, hey, what are we doing to increase the connection on your team?
Yeah.
And it's generally, what does the client want? What does the organization want? And where are they at? They have to be aware of where they are and to where they want to get to. And then how are we going to measure those things? Then we can work backwards and build anything out.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
I love that, the measurability of things, right? You can't really figure out where you're going until you know kind of where you're at today and where you want to go, and how do you measure that along the way to make sure you're making progress, right?
Yep. Yep. Got to. You got to measure it. If it doesn't get measured, it doesn't get fixed.
Yeah. So, professionals at play, I
Mhm.
know you've spoken to our group several times now.
Mhm.
So this was kind of a prescriptive question, but what is your favorite game to play? If you had, one game to play, what is your favorite game?
Ooh, I think my favorite game has got to be tag.
Tag.
Tag. Yep. And I have an HR approved version of tag that is absolutely spectacular. That is, it's wonderful. All of a sudden, you start to play tag with adults, and we immediately revert to childhood.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's awesome.
I
Always
just
good.
I slightly think of that movie that was actually based out of Spokane, right? The movie
Yes, it
Tag,
was.
and just
Yep.
thinking about the lifelong friends that are just continually playing this game of tag, and just how much
Uh,
joy that movie brought, right?
mm-hmm. Yep. I just watched a clip from that yesterday, actually. It's so
Um,
good.
so professional play, right?
Mhm.
How best do you encourage or teach HR or leadership to integrate like playing games into their regular work culture?
Ooh, that's a good question. That I think takes a little bit of coaching, a
Yeah.
little bit of mentorship, because it's really not most people's default mode network is not play. Most people, it's like, okay, sit back, observe. What are the rules? So those folks, I think, oftentimes need to be given permission to play,
Hmm.
and they need to be trained in what is play that I can do with my teams that is HR approved, that makes a difference on my team, and that is easy. Because most people will look at what I do and go, I'm not going to facilitate play for 500 people
Yeah.
in for an hour and a half or 2 hours. That's not going to happen because
Chaos.
most people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I can say, hey, here's 5 questions. Have your people partner up and ask these questions. Give each person 3 minutes. Go.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they go, oh, I just have to give them a question and then give them time up. Yeah, cool. I can do that.
Because the
So
questions that you're probably asking are like not exactly play, but geared probably towards that same
mhm,
kind of mental piece as play, right? Like sparking
absolutely.
that different part of your brain that you don't
Yep.
normally access unless you're kind of uh, voluntarily forced.
Voluntold. You're
Yeah.
voluntold to.
Yeah.
Yep.
In an ideal scenario, being professionals, how often should we be playing?
That is another great question. I truly think that a little bit of play every single day helps with your mental health and wellness, your focus, your productivity, your creativity. And here's the thing is it doesn't have to be a long time.
Yeah.
Like a round of golf, you're looking at a whole day event, right?
Yeah.
But if I can play or laugh or have a really good moment with somebody in the workplace, the benefit of that joy and laughter is hours long. If I can, like, if you ever have a chance, like, look up one of your favorite HR approved comedians, because obviously you don't want to get in trouble depending on who your favorite comedian is.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam Kinison fans, right? Um, but if you watch 5 minutes of your favorite comedian and you get a really good chuckle going and you get a really good laugh going, or you have a favorite meme and you send that to one of your coworkers and they send you one back that is again HR approved. Um, you get those moments of, oh my gosh, gut busting laughter. You get so many benefits from that. Mental health, creativity, your connection to other people. yeah, your focus and overall your profitability goes up in just a few minutes of play. So every single day, just 4 or 5 minutes, quick, easy, fast, creates a lot of a huge positive systemic change.
Yeah.
So I would say every day needs to be play.
Uh, quick question. Typically, one of the games that just pops into my head that would make me laugh hysterically that I haven't done yet, the tortilla slap game. Is that HR approved or is that on the questionable, leaning towards probably not because there's physical violence associated
Right.
with
That
that?
one might be an offsite
Yeah.
uh actor, and then you slap, laugh, it sprays. So yeah, so you might have that HR might not approve of that one. Maybe you have to have goggles. I don't know.
Yeah. Um, I think one of the things you and I just recently went to a lunch and learn kind of scenario thing where one of the things we talked about was the generational differences that are in the workforce,
Mhm.
right? You have from baby boomer down to now Gen Z really entering the workforce.
Yep.
So how do you see the generational differences in gameplay and how does that help bring people together in a relatable form when they're playing rock, paper, scissors, or any other of those games, right? But baby boomers being able to relate all the way down to Gen Z and everything in between, how does that gameplay help with that generational differences?
It is huge. Gameplay opens us up to the possibilities of others. And so if you look at that baby boomer to Gen Z, there's a huge difference in how they communicate, the words that they use. Like, if you want a great one, have your Gen Z and your baby boomers, one of them up on each side of the stage or in a group. Yeah, it is because we have colloquialisms. So if I say somebody's a little long in the tooth, Gen Z is going to go, what are you long? What does that mean? I don't know. What long in the tooth? Why would you have long teeth? Are you like, well, I don't get it. They don't understand because it's an it's something us old people use,
Yeah.
right? So but then Gen Z has stuff that they will say, yeah, Riz. I'm like, that's not even a real word.
Yeah, I don't even
Okay.
know.
Stop it.
Yeah.
It's a legit thing. Just so you know, it's it's probably not HR approved. But you can say, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And they can be like, what? And then they can have a conversation about it because then they're laughing like that's a real thing. Like, what does, oh my gosh, because it opens us up. It allows us to laugh at ourselves, to laugh at like, be like, okay, cool. Oh my gosh, whatever. I don't even know. But then they're actually talking.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing is how do we communicate effectively? Because let's face it, there's anybody that's been in the industry longer than us is probably going to have information that we could use to be successful. But how do we initiate that conversation?
Yeah.
How do we share that? And, young people are going to have the ability to use technology in a way that maybe a baby boomer, a Gen Xer, or even a millennial might not understand yet. And they've got that skill set just baked in because of how they grew up. And so together, that's a formidable person. That's a formidable group that can do a lot of different things incredibly well if we can figure out how to bring them together so they can work together.
Yeah. So kind of actually speaking of that, of how they grew up, how do you see kind of the differences of generational of how we grew up, right? Because I'll very much say, all right, like your generation was don't come home until the lights, the street lights turn
Yep.
on. My generation was kind of that intermediate of I remember those times of playing outside when street lights
Mhm.
came on, but then I could also go in and play my Game Boy kind of
Mhm.
situation. So technology was just coming into really the scene when I was growing up. To then now
Mhm.
you have right the Gen Z who very much right from the get-go grew up with technology. So
Mhm.
how does that impact the workforce from a generational perspective of going back to playing games as a kid, right? And kids today, they can play online and play with anybody in the world, whereas you were really restricted to your geographical location of
Right.
gameplay prior to. So where do you
Yeah.
see that gameplay come to fruition for going into workforce now?
Mhm. That's actually a really interesting thing. And I'm seeing a lot of that happen in young people right now is the ability to connect and actually have a face-to-face conversation from Gen Z and whoever's coming after like, the ones that are coming up after them.
Crazy thing,
It's
there's already one coming after them.
I know, right? I know. It's like, oh my gosh. Their ability to have a conversation is very different. The
Mhm.
attention span is also different, unless it's something that they're very interested in which case their attention span is infinite, like most human beings. Uh, but the ability to connect. So like folks who are, let's say, in that baby boomer Gen X range, they want to have a conversation face to face. They would rather have just like, give me a quick meeting, let's talk about it. Gen Z, give me an email, a text message. Don't send me, don't talk to me. No, 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 no. Why are we talking? I don't want
Yeah.
to talk. Let's just do it in an email. Let's do that because they're used to that. That's how they communicate with text and they do voice messaging. They'll do all those kind of things, but that's not a face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
And so, um, unfortunately, one of there's positives to that and negatives. Positive, they can talk to anybody in the world. They can have a game. They can like get intrigued and do something online with anybody in the world. So they have a massive playground, right? The hard part about that is because there's always a screen between you and somebody else. The actual human interaction portion of it has gone down.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing that when I work with young students, I'll say, go ahead and shake somebody's hand. They don't actually know how to shake somebody's hand. Like you have to teach them, like, okay, this is my Webby. You're going to put your Webby on their Webby and you're going to squeeze their hand. Now, you're not going to crush it, but you're not going to do nice and limp like this. No,
Yeah.
you're going to look them in the eye and you're going to say, hi, my name is. And then you let go. If it lasts longer than 3 shakes, it's weird. Okay. So you have to teach them what that interaction looks like
Yeah.
and almost even how to have a conversation face to face because they they almost don't know what to do if they don't have something in front of them.
Yeah.
And so the play portion of things helps to engage both parties at a level of, okay, this is fun. I actually enjoy this. But then it also allows them to have a conversation, even if it's just a simple snippet. Like, here's how we're going to interact. Okay, cool. Here's the question. Ask this. Here's this one. Ask this. How about this? Hey, wait, share with your partner this. And so if you can keep them going relatively quickly, they're engaged. They also are sharing information about themselves and they realize, oh, it's actually not that hard to talk to somebody else, face to face. Okay, cool. But then they can share like, this is how we like to have things done. Oh, this is how we like to have things done. Where's the space in the middle where it works out for both of us so that we can be the most efficient?
Yeah.
So you have to be able to communicate for that to even happen. So the play portion, uh, it is different. It is different. And some people will like certain activities and other people are like, yeah, that's not my jam. That's okay.
Yeah.
But if we're allowed to play, if we're allowed to actually engage in that manner, it can greatly influence our ability to communicate effectively in the workplace, especially intergenerationally.
So to me, it sounds like we need to play more. Definitely, for companies that are struggling or just have that issue when it comes to company culture, communication, those sort of connectivity
Mhm.
within, the teams that they're working in, play can certainly help facilitate and break down some of those barriers, as well as just multi-generational in the workforce.
Yeah.
Being able to relate to a common theme that we all naturally have that tendency to go back to playing some sort of game and bringing
Yeah.
out that childhood aspect there. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
any last takeaways that you want to share that we didn't really cover today?
Well, you know what? I'll just say it. Play is more than just fun. Play is vital for human intelligence, creativity, and connection. And without play, we are, I believe it was, I don't know who said it, but it was all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Yeah.
So, so go out and play, have fun,
Yeah.
enjoy.
Love it.
Life's too short. Might as well have a smile on your face and have a good time.
So, if somebody listens to this and they're just like, "Hey, I want to learn more about that," what's the best way to get in touch with you? Where do they find you?
Where do they find me? Okay, this is the hard part because I'm Gen X. I didn't have all the socials. I don't know all the stuff. So
What's your handles?
that's my handles. Handlebar mustache. No,
Yeah.
it is I'm Geoff at professionalsatplay.com is my email. People can find me on LinkedIn at Geoff McLachlan, Professionals at Play. They can find me at professionalsatplay.com online. And then I think on Instagram is also Professionals at Play. I don't have any Twitter. Facebook I got kicked off of because I had too many devices that I blew up in a week. Always check your cords, everybody. A kink in a cord is not a good thing.
Huh.
Good to know.
Yeah. Well, Geoff, thank you so much for being first guest on our show that we're doing here, and appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much, James. I appreciate you and all the work that you and your team are doing. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.